Hi, this is RENSEP, the research network for the study of esoteric practices. This episode is part of the series Science and the Esoteric, where we explore the relation, discourse, and intersections between these two fields of experiential knowledge. When we talk about science and esoteric practices, we'd be remiss if we didn't tackle the history and debate around the so-called triangle of magic, science, and religion. Indeed, in modern academic research, the word magic seems stuck in the magic, science, religion triangle, which groups three different ideas. Scholars have often tried to explain each of these terms by looking at how each fits with the other two. There is also the perception that magic is similar to or different from science and religion, two terms whose definitions are themselves the subject of heated debates. Much modern academic talk has been about figuring out how these structural relationships work in terms of their functions, levels, modes, and origins. So let's give a summary of the scholarly discussion surrounding this triad as Bernd Christian Otto, the chair of RENSEP's scientific committee, has explained it. Edward B. Tyler and James George Fraser, the founders of academic anthropology, saw science as the main counterpoint to magic. Since then, the magic-science dyad has tended to dominate anthropological theory. Tyler and Fraser both thought that magic was a pseudoscience, or the bastard sister of science, because it was based on a failed attempt to understand and control nature. Early anthropological definitions linked magic with science, but they also said there was a big difference between magical and scientific ways of thinking. In the 20th century, however, the debate focused on the emotional roots or its cultural roots and emic rationality. Most of all, E. Evans Pritchard's works about witchcraft and magic among the Azande, with their focus on the logical and empirical basis of witchcraft belief among the Azande, who live in what is now South Sudan, set the stage for a strong debate about the theoretical implications of the relationship between magic and science about 30 years later. The so-called rationality argument went further than just talking about epistemological issues like how magic can't be proven wrong or how hard it is to understand non-Western cultures. It also questioned the idea that magic and science are incompatible by pointing out the ethnocentrism of this Western way of thinking. Robin Horton kept the comparison but changed the parameters. This led him to focus more on the idea of two basic contexts: the closed, in which people don't know about other options, hold their beliefs sacred, and worry about threats to them, and the open, in which people know about other options, hold their beliefs less sacred, and worry less about threats to them. Stanley J. Tambaya changed the focus of the triad again, from the supposed causes of speech or ritual acts to how they are done. More drastically, Michael Winkelmann argued in 1982 that the common assumption in academic discourse that magic cannot cause anything would need to be changed in light of new ideas and research in parapsychology. In defining magic, Susan Greenwood argues that magic should be considered a legitimate form of knowledge within a synthetic view of science. This is similar to other attempts to prove that magic has its causality. In the book this episode is based on, Christopher Lerich also says that science and magic can be told apart. However, he questions the science ideas used in earlier debates because they were based on models of the natural sciences that were often wrong and oversimplified. From a religious studies point of view, the main conceptual tension is between magic and religion. The idea that there is a realm of magic that is separate from or in addition to religion has a long history that modern academic scholarship has inherited. People have been arguing for a long time about how different and compatible these two fields are. Not only did the early theorists try to explain magic in different ways that weren't always consistent, but they also took on the negative, dismissive, and even hostile attitude of earlier Christian and Enlightenment thinkers. Tyler, for example, calls magic a monstrous farrago. To him, magic is always bad. When any of it becomes good, it stops being magic, he said. This is, of course, not a result of academic scholarship. Instead, it is an example of tautology that is based on ideology. Scholars have also argued that Durkheim's distinction between magic and religion amounts to little more than a rephrasing of Christian heresiological categories and circular reasoning of a surprisingly simple kind. Magic and religion are seen as two different things that don't go together. As the 20th century went on, this way of thinking was about to change. Malinowski, for example, continued to oppose magic to religion substantially, but at the same time held that they were functionally compatible as they both addressed existential human needs, which in modern society would be made partly irrelevant by science. In 1949, the sociologist William J. Good pointed out that many well-known scholars such as Lowy, Radin, Maret, Goldweiser, Herskowitz, and Benedict had found different degrees of overlap between magic and religion. But he tried to keep them different by putting magic and religion on a continuum as ideal types. Two anthropologists and sociologists, Murray and Rosalie Wax, examined the situation in 1963. Few academics, according to them, have contested the distinctions and oppositions between magic and science, or magic and religion. Still, most have continued to apply them as they are derived from Fraser, Durkheim, and Malinowski. Yet, these ways of thinking have been harshly criticized. The critics have been well-known experts with useful data, and their criticism has never been proven wrong. Otto finally argues that the magic-religion dichotomy is an instance of uncritical ethnocentrism that contributed to colonialist plans to subjugate the minds of other peoples and legitimize civilizing missions or attempts at Christian conversion. Despite these major criticisms and the fact that magic and religion have a lot in common, magic is still used by many scholars who study religion as a self-evident category and tool for analysis. So what do you think about the magic science religion triangle? What are your views about the contribution that scholarship has done, and what are the next steps that scholarship can make? Let's discuss that in the forum. Hope you enjoyed this episode and stay tuned for all the others in the series Science and the Esoteric. RENSEP over and out. Until next time, stay esoteric.